Lit Happens, your celebration of literary arts in Saskatchewan. Today I'm very pleased to welcome Sally Meadows. Hi Sally, thanks for coming on Lit Happens.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
So why don't you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a recording artist and author from right here in Saskatoon. And I write mainly in the genres of children's books. I write short nonfiction stories, usually inspirational. I'm obviously a songwriter as well. And hoping this year to maybe move into a little bit more journalistic writing as well. So that's my background.
So 2015 was a big year for you in publishing. So can you tell us a little bit about the projects that your recent projects?
Yeah, absolutely. In 2015, I released two children's books. One is called The Two Trees. And I wrote this book to raise awareness about autism and the challenges families that have a child with autism have. And it's told from the sibling point of view, and that's not maybe done as often, but siblings need support as much as children on the autism spectrum. And so I'm very pleased that the Saskatchewan Writers Guild has helped fund me to go to schools all around the province and talk to school children about topics like autism and bullying and the importance of being a good friend. And then we do some wonderful hands-on activities too in the area of science, which is one of my backgrounds. I used to do science shows for kids, so we have a lot of fun doing that. My second book is Beneath That Star, and it's quite different. It's actually based on a children's book, it's actually based on a song I wrote on my Christmas CD, Red and White. And it's about a young Jewish girl named Sarai, who longs to be a shepherd, just like her three older brothers. And one night, God speaks to her in a dream to watch out for her and follow that star. And it's set back in the time around Jesus was born. And so you can probably imagine in your head maybe how that story plays out a little bit. And then last year as well, I contributed to several anthologies, including these two here. One's called Hot Apple Cider with Cinnamon. And it is the latest installment in a Canadian best-selling series, actually. So I'm really, really pleased to be part of this one. I remember when I first started writing, a few years ago, it was my goal to be in one of these, and I was able to accomplish that. So that was really exciting for me. And then the last anthology here is called 7 Essential Habits of Christian Writers. And it's most of the pieces are nonfiction. But my particular piece, I tried to do I did in a story format. And so it's a really wonderful book because it gives a combination of practical advice with just inspiration for Christian writers. So.
Okay, and tell us what's the story about in Hot Apple Cider with Cinnamon?
The story in Hot Apple Cider with Cinnamon is a story that about a very difficult time in my life. And basically how sometimes when we're put in very difficult circumstances, there are a lot of things that were going wrong, a lot of difficult things in my life, a lot of emotional things in my life, and how a wonderful situation came out of that, or several wonderful situations came out of that. So it's really a story of overcoming and victory, and how sometimes what can be difficult circumstances can end up being a blessing.
So do you find that your writing is very different when you're writing for children than when you're writing for the adult audiences?
That's a good question. I think that there's definitely some similar themes that I sometimes have, but I'm not quite sure how to answer that, I'll be honest with you.
Well, how are people receiving the new books?
The Two Trees I'm very, very pleased with how it's been going. I've had a chance to partner with some autism organizations, both national and local, to go and share my books with the general public and with autism families. The audience for this book, actually, if I can share that, would be, schools and libraries, and not just families on the autism spectrum, because we want to sort of raise awareness about the challenges of autism. So it could be for any family at all. And so I've been very pleased how that's happened. Beneath That Star was released later in the year last year. So I think we're still trying to gain a little bit of steam for that. I've definitely had some great reviews from people, writers and non-writers and recording artists from across Canada for the book, and hoping for it to really take off in 2016. While it is themed to Christmas a little bit, it really has a message for anybody at any time. And one of the things I want to do when I share this book with young people, especially young women, is to remember that don't let anybody tell you what you cannot do. If you have a dream, to go for it. And that's a message that I try to share with, especially when I'm talking one-on-one with young women. It's a message that was sort of pounded to me when I was, not pounded to me, but was shared with me when I was young by my mom, and I want to share that with other young women as well.
Nice. And so what kind of projects are you working on now? More children's books, nonfiction, songs, a little of each? What are you working on?
A little bit of everything. Unexpectedly, this first part of 2016 is focused a little bit more on songwriting. I went to a songwriting masterclass recently at a retreat put on by our provincial musical association, Sask Music, and out of that it was so inspiring. It was such a great experience that I've gone on to focus quite a bit of songwriting over the last few weeks. And I've got a couple of children's book manuscripts in various stages right now. And again, this is the year that I want to focus a little bit more on that journalistic writing.
And so do you find, you mentioned that that this book was inspired by one of your songs.
Yes.
Do you often go back and forth between genres with maybe the same theme or being inspired by the same sorts of things?
It definitely happens. Obviously it happened in that case. I don't, for example, have any other intention to write books on any of my songs here, but I do a lot of cross-genre things. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes I actually, one of the things I have been working on, I'm not sure where it's going to go yet, but my first CD was called Turn the Page. And that one, I've actually written devotionals or short stories about each of the songs, because that album was looking at different aspects of my life, and they're basically stories of my life, and so that lends itself really well to short stories as well. So that's one of the projects I have on the go as well.
That sounds really interesting.
Thank you.
And so where are some of the places that people can find your work?
Everything's available online. Most of these things, my CDs and books, are almost all available at McNally Robinson and Indigo, Kohl's, various online stores, pretty well everywhere. But of course, they're all available on my website, which is sallymeadows.com.
That's nice and easy to remember.
Yes.
Well, Sally, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for being here. I'm Danica Lorer, and this was Lit Happens. You can find more episodes of Lit Happens on Shaw TV Saskatoon on YouTube. Thank you for watching. You can contact me on Twitter or Facebook, or look me up by emailing danicalorer@gmail.com.